I'll move us on to our next speaker then. So, coming up next, we have Waffle, arguing that artists should be paid after completing their work. Whenever you're ready, unmute your mic. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Paco. Essentially, my argument consists of 3 points. At that point, when the payment is given to the artist, they have really nothing to offer. They have nothing to guarantee the point that they will come through on their art and they will deliver. And they have it. If it was to become a popular method, paying people before completing their art, it would essentially allow people to easily scam or trick people by displaying art, taking the money, and then vanishing. As Reverb said, it would be fairly easy for someone to get the art and then vanish without paying. But on the other hand, he mentioned how it would be hard for an artist to take the money, not complete it, vanish, and get away without any negative reputation coming from it. However, on this point, I think that the artist could, if they are a newer artist, they could display some of their art or other people's art and claim that it is theirs. And they have been doing this for a while, but they have just gotten a new account, perhaps something along that line. And they could then ask the person, what would you like? Maybe a ref, $60, so on, so forth. They then demand that payment, they receive the payment, and they would easily be able to leave this account and potentially even just delete it and then start it again. And from this point, they can take the money and kind of do what Reverb had said with taking the art and vanishing, but in this case, taking the money and vanishing. If you were to, on to my second point, if you were to go to something like a store, you're not exactly going to walk up to the cashier and give them $20 and come back in a week and then say, "Can I have this bread?" Doesn't work like that. And it's quite obvious why. Which means, it kind of works with the art that way. If you don't have something to offer, how can you really expect them to pay? It's kind of like asking for a loan. Can I have $60 and I will give you this back? There's no guarantee they'll give it back. And again, with the sort of scandaling, scummy method, that could be possible. With the fact of paying upfront, it also provides them no real mode to get the art completed. It gives them no real reason to focus and get the work done in a timely manner because they have the money. They really could take as long as they want to pay to give you this art back. And even if they were a well-established artist, they could potentially complete a sketch within the first couple of weeks and either send it to them or hold it for themselves. If the commissioner was to ask or was to make a post discrediting the artist and saying I have received nothing from them, the artist at that point could then send a response to that, which would be the sketch, and it could include a small paragraph or something saying that, well, I am currently working on the piece. I know it has been a while, but I'm still working diligently on it. However, they may really just be having that sketch completed. And every time that the commissioner was to come through and say, there is progress being made on this, there is nothing being done, discrediting the artist can then do maybe a small amount more work on the piece, maybe rearranging the sketch, editing it slightly, or adding some color. And although it would be making some progress, it wouldn't be making enough progress, in my opinion, to really warrant demanding the money up front. If sorry, if you were to pay the artist up front, it does allow them to take the money and scandalize, as I had said earlier. Although it would be more difficult for them, it still would be very possible. It's a very difficult topic to debate on, but I do believe that you should not pay up front, as it just kind of allows them to take the money and maybe scandal, whereas it would also allow them, in the other opinion, if you were to pay last, it would allow you to scandal with the art. But on the other hand, if you pay last, it ensures that your art will be completed within a timely manner and up to quality, as they haven't received payment for this. They can't exactly take your payment and then give you something which is half the quality you thought it would be and say, well, I did the work, I have your money, that's all I need. If you pay them last, it allows them to work hard as they have that goal, they have that reward to work towards. And it ensures that you will have quality. Because if you do not have that quality, you can say, well, I don't want to pay for this. It isn't a quality piece. It's not what I was expecting. Essentially, that is my points. I'll just restate them real quick, and then I'll be done. Essentially, my 3 points were they would have nothing to offer them while paying. It would have no guarantee of quality or completion of the art. And if it becomes a popular method, it would be very easy to scam people or trick them by displaying the art and taking the money and then vanishing, saying it was a new account or something along that lines. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe we have some questions. Right, Simba.
Hi, Waffle. Thank you for your speech. That was very good. So the first point I want to raise is that artists actually do generally want payment up front. This isn't something which might come in as an accepted thing. This already is very much accepted within the fandom. And my point to you is, you mentioned that long-term abusive and thieving artists could be shielded from a reputation hit by creating new accounts or new identities. Do you not feel, though, that if someone is claiming other people's art as being drawn by them and is presenting it as evidence of their legitimacy, that they're going to be hit as negatively by poor comments as if they were to steal money with their original identity?
Well, my general thought on this is essentially, if it was to be a predominant piece that had been displayed by a quite popular artist, that would definitely happen. But if it was someone, say, working for just $10, which would be very feasible if they were to do this multiple times, because $10 adds up over a couple of times, they could take a more mediocre artist that maybe is not as well known, and it would run less risk. And at that point, if someone did spot this art and had brought up that point, they could, again, just kind of scandal and leave that with basically go and make a different account and be a little more careful this time, avoid maybe that specific person, and use the same art or find different art from a more mediocre artist just to essentially still get that payment, but to not do the work. It would definitely be impossible or implausible to do with a high quality piece of art. It's very expensive to make. But for a more mediocre piece, it would be, I believe it would be at least semi feasible or fairly easy to do.
Okay, thank you, Waffle. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much. Right, we have another question for Reverb, whenever you're ready.
Hey, good speech. There's the potential to be scanned by an artist, either showing off stolen artwork themselves or deleting accounts in this way. You're absolutely correct. I've seen dozens of accounts like this. It's not common, but I won't lie, I've seen it. Especially back in the day on my time in DeviantArt. But shouldn't it be up to the buyer to be cautious about who they purchase from? Why should other artists have to risk handing out free art because the buyers aren't necessarily doing as much research as they should be, making sure that this art isn't stolen, maybe reverse image searching some of these? If it's a newer account that doesn't have a lot of comments saying that people have gotten commissions from them. If I was clear.
Well, that's a fairly good point, but even with something like the reverse image search for a newer account, I do believe there should be at least some sort of pressure, for lack of a better word, on the artist to ensure that they are offering a reasonable service, and it shouldn't necessarily be completely up to the buyer to place this much trust in them and to offer them this much money. Because on one hand, you are running the risk of free art, but on the other hand, you are running the risk of giving away a lot of money, or potentially a lot of money, or potentially a little. Which it's kind of a hard point because I don't want to say one's worth the other. But in my opinion, if I had to choose between the two, I would have to say that potentially the money could be a more feasible option, because if the art was to be taken, yes, you would put a lot of time in it, and it would be very sad to have that taken. But on the other hand, the money is something that you have, again, put a lot of effort into through earning by your own commissions or earning it by something like your job and working hard. Whereas I'm not trying to discredit the art here, but I feel like the money is more of a risk factor. It's easier to kind of scandal with. Whereas the art, this person really, once they take that art, it's could be announced by the artist this person has taken this art, and even though it may not be something super obvious, easy to track them down, it would be hard to use that art if it was done by a fairly popular artist that most people know. A lot of people would soon pick up and see that man using and would say, he's stolen that art. Let's bring it to the artist's attention. Things like that. And it would kind of make it harder for the commissioner to scandal that way.
Thank you for answering the question, friend.
Thank you. Yes. Coming up next, we've got Zacalo. Whenever you're ready.
I have a question regarding what you guys feel about PayPal always siding with the buyer in every single instance, and PayPal not offering any protection for any commissions whatsoever.
I can try, I guess. So it's a little strange. Usually, if you're going to act as a processor between two people, you should have some sort of dispute resolution process. And I know PayPal claims to have one, but it's, well, my thoughts on PayPal are quite well known. I really don't like them. But most places do have some sort of policy where it's in the middle. So they'll look at what has been provided and they'll try and assess things fairly. And sometimes they'll award a partial payment to both sides. I think that's a much better way of doing it. I think PayPal system is terrible.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've actually never seen any other payment options being put.
This is exactly why PayPal is successful, because there is no competitor. If you have a company which is unchallenged, then they can do basically whatever they want, and you can't say, well, I'll go with the competitor, because none of your clients have that competitor. If you look at PayPal's market share, it's scary. It's like 70 to 80%. It's huge.
Absolutely, and then the banks could file a chargeback against PayPal
Yes.
anytime for no reason.
Yes,
I've had that happen.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question for you, Waffle. You talk about people potentially ducking out of, by deleting their account, or some way of getting around having to pay. About being able to deliver the art. But do you not think that brands and a consistent name is what drives attention to the artist? So they are severely compromising their income and ability by ducking out instead of delivering. For the artist to be successful, they have to provide a good service. It is similar to what Smith said, 200 years ago. It's not from the kindness of the baker or the butcher that we expect our dinner. It's a fact that they have to make a living. And if they get a bad reputation or have no reputation by deleting their account, they don't make money.
That's a good point. But on the other hand, they could delete this account and create a new one and potentially advertise as a new artist. And they could potentially play to this. As I said, my method doesn't theoretically work with a larger sum, such as something maybe like $20. But for a commission of $10, it would be fairly, I believe it'd be fairly simple. Pose as a new artist, say these are some of the sketches or drawings I've done in my free time, and I'm just looking to start out as an artist. They find their first client, they receive the payment, and then they can easily scandal or keep going with that account until it seems to catch a fair amount of attention. This also works in conjunction with my point of partially completing the art. They could partially complete the art, and as they started to catch fire for it, or flack, shall we say, they can essentially show that art and say, I'm sorry, I'm new to this, I'm just slow, so don't rush me, which could buy them more time to essentially gain more commissions and take more money from other unsuspecting people, because this could actually also work and boost their reputation slightly as a new artist, showing that they have worked on a piece and it does look maybe semi legible, like fairly well completed. It would allow them to kind of boost that reputation and potentially scam more people in the short amount of time that they do have. And then they could repeat this process by creating a different account after that one had been spotted, shall we say.
Thank you very much for your reply, Waffle.